Well, happy Friday night, everybody. Cheers, my dears. It is Friday. Ooh, I have a proper cocktail. I'm gonna drink instead of fooling around here. And then I'll tell you what this concoction is. Mm. Oh, good Lord. God, that's good. I'm kicking back right here. I did not think I was gonna have a show for you tonight. It has been so crazy busy. But in the end, I just couldn't live without a show. I needed to make contact and have grown-up conversation and yeah, come on, Buttons. Come on, Buttons. There's no more pepperoni in here. He thinks I'm still eating spinach and pepperoni, and all I have got is a Bowls. I don't know if this brand is available here. My friend shipped it from the Netherlands. A Bowls yogurt cocktail. Mm. It's this great Dutch brand. Their factories in Amsterdam, and this flavor of yogurt. What are you, a cat? Okay, out you go. Out you go. There he goes. Go ahead, Buttons. Thank you. I'm telling you. I'm telling you. Um, it's like the flavor of yogurt that's not sweetened. You know what I mean? It's not like a vanilla yogurt. Oh God, I wish you could all try it if you enjoy strong alcohol, and it's got a little bit of cherry liqueur on top of it. Oh God, is that good? All right, hang on a second. Let me have one more. It's been one of those days. Mm. Joy, cheers, my dears. I was about to go live 15 minutes ago and I realized that I looked like a dirt bag. I forgot to take a shower this morning. I mean, I looked like a greasy, sweaty hog. So I just hopped in the shower and I figured, well, what goes best with shower? Well, a cocktail, but also pajamas. So I'm really letting it fly tonight. I am sorry about that. It is going to be a great show, but I am letting it fly just a little bit. Snow day, right? Not for the kids. Believe me, I was running around like a maniac. Okay, one more sip and then we're going to get going. Mm. Oh, my word. Okay. Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back. I was really struggling with an idea for tonight, and I must have been really convoluted and confusing in the way that I was describing this cocktail night because I'm going to do gallery night next Friday night. I felt like if I announced it on Wednesday, it was too rushed. I usually announce it way far in advance so that lots of people can send stuff in. And a bunch of people did send stuff in, probably enough for a show, but I didn't know if that would happen. So I thought, why don't I just do that next week? And then I had to really come up with an idea very quickly for a show. But I think I got a great idea. We might have the formula for a new show that we do once in a while. That's a lot of fun because I know a lot of you are not on Facebook at all, and I'm on Facebook as much as I can be, but not as much as I would like to be to keep up with everybody's posting. And I realized there are so many posts in our Facebook group, which is Rug Cooking and Punch Needle Club, that come and go and are like filled like questions that have like 60 people answering with really unique and insightful and sort of nuggets of wisdom kinds of replies. And I hardly ever read them because I just don't have the time to be on that page very often. And I thought maybe you have the same situation. So tonight we're going to look at some of the recent posts on the Facebook group, and I'm just distracted because Teddy has a friend over a few doors down, and I'm always very grateful when he has a friend over because it's always been a thing. But they are super loud, and I'm hoping they don't say bad words that you can hear. So I'm very preoccupied, but I might have to. I know what would help me let it go. I wish they'd just put the TV on. All right, so we're going to do lots of questions, answers, tips, tricks, hacks, all kinds of funny stuff tonight. It's going to be a show like we have never done before. Robin, cheers, my dears. Great to see you in Wisconsin. Is it still freezing cold there? Mm. I got to put a little more of this raspberry stuff in here because, oh dear, oh dear. Oh, that might be too much. Oops, I can't stop. All right, there we go. There we go. Sorry, I'm so gross. This is how I am at restaurants too. I'm just like licking off the placemats. That's it, I swear. Let's run a show. All right. Happy Friday night. Good to see you, Becky. Great to see you. Good evening from snowy Indiana. Oh dear. Kaz, you sent some beautiful stuff for gallery night next week. I've got it. I already started the file for next week, so that's a good start. It's great having like a little bit going. I feel in my head like we're halfway there. Good to see you. Karen, great to see you sipping on you love the bourbon. Oh, your maker's mark, right? I love that too. With a fire going in Black Forest, Colorado. Sounds like heaven, my buddy Ann. I know that you are already in Florida. It's chilly. Oh, it's chilly for the winter. Oh, interesting. Well, not as chilly as New Hampshire, though, right? Good to see you. Linda, cheers, my dears in Massachusetts. Great to see you. Catherine, great to see you. All cozy and warm here in Missouri, ready for cocktail night. Fantastic. Oh, Mom, you logged on. I was going to send you a reminder. You got there. Good job. Snowy and cold here in Granby, Connecticut. Tomorrow's temps will be brutal. Oh, I didn't hear that yet. Sounds like a good day to be extra lazy. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I was hoping it would be warmer. It's been like a spate of really cold days here. Not as cold as other parts of the country, like 22, 23, which I know. I should just keep my mouth shut, shouldn't I? Because that really ain't that cold. But, it was just it's a bit surprising first thing in the morning. I guess that's all. Dave, great to see you. Corned beef. Oh, I love corned beef. And hard cider in Toronto. Cheers, my dears. Good to see you. Kathy, great to see you. Brr! And tomorrow will be even colder. Good day to hook next to the fire. Well, that's true. I think tomorrow I'm going to head into the office and do some more work. I had a big work day planned for myself because I do have some orders I really need to get out. And I have not forgotten. I was having a really busy day yesterday with getting stuff done. I was like, "Whoa, look at me go," mwah, mwah, kissing my biceps as I went and go, "Oh God, I'm getting so much done." And then, how sometimes you forget something and you don't realize that you forgot it, but there's something deep, 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 deep in the back of your mind that's like, did I forget? Like, then it just becomes a game of, well, what was it and how important was it? And I had that yesterday because it was like I had when I woke up, I looked at my phone and it was like appointment for Teddy at 1. And I thought, oh, okay, I guess he's being tested today because there's been so much talk of testing. But the thing is, they send so many emails home from the school. Like, this sounds awful, but I can't possibly read all of them. I mean, I read the gist of all of them, but it's almost like reading the fine print on a new credit card. It's like, who does that? I don't. So, I mean, I was keeping up with it as best I could, but the volume was ridiculous. It was absurd. It's like, really, Krista, could you just like condense this and send it in one email instead of sending phrases, like one word phrases that aren't complete sentences, 20 times over the course of 2 weeks? Because it's very hard to synthesize that and like extract, right? The important thing, like, you're supposed to be here at 1:00. So I had that note in the back of my head and I thought, oh, he must be getting a test. That's weird that I would have put that on my calendar. And then I started thinking about how I bumped into his teacher the day before and he said, I'll see you tomorrow. And I thought he meant like at pickup because I go to pick the kids up every day. And then I put them together and I thought, I wonder if he meant he'd see me tomorrow, like in a formal situation. And then I called, it was 12:36 and I hadn't showered yet. And I called the receptionist, Kathy, and I said, do you think I'm supposed to be there? She's like, you're supposed to be here in like 21 minutes. And I was like, I didn't even say goodbye. I just shut the phone off and I hopped in the shower. And I mean, it was 2.5 hours, but it was one of those. And I was very grateful that I caught the ball and God knows what it was. Thank you, universe. Thank you, God. Like, that got my head thinking, maybe you are supposed to, because it was very important. It was one of the 2 most important meetings of the year when you have a child in an autism program. I mean, it was like, it scares me. It now scares me to think that I almost missed it, right? There was like 10 people there. Oh my God, can you imagine? So I didn't get as much done yesterday. This is the point, as I had hoped. So I will probably be very busy tomorrow. If you're waiting for an order for me, I think I'm about a week and a half out. I like to send orders within 1 week, but it's been about a week and a half with a few orders. If you're one of those people who ordered something a week and a half ago, I promise you tomorrow is the day. If it's Dorothy, if it's you, I did a beautiful set. I wonder if you saw the video this morning. Dorothy ordered a bunch of things that I'm getting out in pieces because it requires a lot of dyeing. But last night I ended up dyeing a 31 quarter yard set of Midsummer. Maybe it's just called Midsummer Night's Dream. Midsummer something. It's a beautiful set. It's an older set. It's her favorite. It was my favorite. Dorothy sent me some pictures of what her house looks like, the inside and the way that she decorates. And man, this set is like made for her. So I can see why she wanted quarter yards of all. But busy, busy times, and I'm trying to get to everything, I promise, as quickly as I can. Catherine, great to see you in Southern California. Happy Friday night. Michelle, great to see you, and it was great seeing you at Mucha the other night. Mucha is repeating on Sunday, right? It's repeating live. I run it twice live. It's the class designed like Alphonse Mucha. If you're new to me and you know that the book is coming out at any moment, I'm not going to be told because it just doesn't work that way, does it? History tells us. But I know one of you is going to tell me, oh, I got your book in the mail, and I'm going to say, is it nice? But it's a design like series that I've been doing, and this month it's Mucha. And you think like, oh, all those busy lines, that's impossible. But I think we broke it down, I hope, Michelle, in a way that it's manageable, and you can do a great Art Nouveau Mucha-esque piece that is still doable as a hook drug. That was the trick with this one. But man, it was a fun class. Michelle, I loved seeing you. I'll get the recordings out. I usually do it on Sunday, but maybe I'll do it tonight. I was trying to get it done, but it's a long recording. Very fun evening. It was fun to be together. Cat's Gallery. I have on you have on your pajamas too, Catherine. How funny is that? Yeah, I mean, this is a Kohl's job, full blast Kohl's, but man, they're comfortable. I'm starting to think I might have made a mistake because I'm feeling hot, and then it's one of those, is it menopause or is the temperature hot in here? I don't want to open the door because then you're going to hear what Teddy's saying and you're going to think I'm the worst mother ever. I can half hear it down the hall. Oh, Michelle, you are the sweetest. You are the sweetest. Valerie, great to see you. I poached some of your stuff for tonight's show. You always post interesting stuff. And if I don't say it, when I know I don't say it often enough, there are so many people on the Facebook group. Valerie, you're definitely one of them who are like the top contributors, who are always answering other people, always there with answers, with support, with a kind word. Valerie, you are always one of those people. And I do notice, right? I do notice. I'm just not, I miss a lot, but I do notice stuff like that when people are on so often and being so positive and kind and supportive. I always notice that, and I always appreciate that so much. Kathy, I started thinking about being home. Okay, wait a minute. I think I'm going to switch to these guys. Something's going on. Nope, these were better. Well, I've got 3 pairs here, so sooner or later, I started thinking about being home with PJs around 11 this morning. Oh, right. It's this weather, isn't it? Oh, it's so nice to be cozy. I was trying to explain the joy of an electric blanket to my kids. They thought I was joking. They thought it was like a Frankenstein kind of thing, like that it wasn't real. It was like a unicorn of a textile. And I'm like, oh no, it's a blanket with wires that go through it, and you plug it in, and like heat goes over your body. And they were like, don't you get electrocuted? And I said, well, no. I mean, unless your bed is inside a pool, right? Or you have a broken waterbed. I don't know. Probably still not. But they had such a hard time imagining the concept of an electric blanket. 2024. I don't know what to say. They also have like an impossible time thinking about the concept of a telephone on the wall. Do you remember those? And one of my friends, God, it might have even been my husband, Arjen, because he's Dutch, said, no, it was my brother-in-law, Tomo. He said to me the other day, and I did not know this. He said, we were talking about telephones for some reason. Maybe we were shopping or whatever. But he remarked on how strange it was, the thought of having a telephone attached, like mounted on the wall. And I said, I lament, I mourn the loss of like every phone being on the wall, because I loved standing with the cord talking. I never talk on the phone for long. I just can't. I get really distracted. But when it's on the wall, it's like, you pass it. It's like you pick it up. You say what you need to. Okay. Yeah, I got it. Yep. And that's that. And it's out of the way. There's no cords. There's, it's not plugged. It's just invisibly mounted on the wall, right? And apparently that's an American thing, because he said in Europe, nobody had ever seen one of those. And their only way of knowing for sure that there was such a thing as a telephone mounted on the wall was American movies. He was like, it was completely an American thing. And I said, are you sure? Didn't it make sense to have a telephone on the wall in the 70s and 80s? And he was like, nope, didn't make sense at all. I don't understand that. I mean, I honestly, I still don't understand that. I don't understand why phones are in the way all the time now. Like, we have a house phone in case someone's head is hanging on by a thread. But there's always wires. It's always stuck, with the cords, with the television set and everything. Wires, pants on fire. And, it was so much easier when it just appeared on the wall like a vision, right? Like, it rings and you just, and then it's out of the way again. I don't know. Life moves too fast. My mom says, I have a wall telephone. Mom, you do. You do still have a wall telephone. I forgot. You do. Yeah, maybe the point. I need a wall telephone. Maybe. Oh wow. Yes, you make me. Oh, good, good, good. Okay, I missed somebody's here. Hang on. Start thinking about being home. Barbara, great to see you. Looking forward. Hopefully, I see you on Sunday for Mucha. Great to see you. Happy cocktail night. Ruth, good evening. Great to see you, my love. Happy Friday. Michelle says, yes, you made me feel like I could do something spectacular with all of the information. Good, good. Something that you like. That is the end result. And I will love seeing it. Anita, great to see you. Cheers, my dears in London. Great to see you. And Kathy says, I ordered your book through Rug Hooking Club yesterday. Can't wait to get it. See, I was half expecting you to say I got it. That would have been a really fast print job. Mm. Oh, wow. Um, but do somebody tell me when it does come, because I'm sure that I won't be alerted that it is printed and shipped. But I'm going to have to keep playing the game of checking, because I know a ton of people pre-ordered it. And I need to have those boxes here so I can ship them out immediately to people who are not in the book club. Also, my mom says, I have a wall phone. You're an old broad. No, you're not. In my mind, you're still 32. That was the first time I remember saying, you know, how old's your mom? 32. That was, in my mind, you are always 32. And Monique Richards, hello from England. Oh, I remember your name. Good to see you. It's just past midnight. Well, I'm going to get on with it then and stop talking crazy. Great to see you. I'm very glad that you logged on. Catherine says, I was shocked to see a sink in the bedroom in European movies. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting because these are like the cultural differences, right? I have to say, I was shocked the first time I lived in England for years. But when I was traveling in Bath, I went to that famous place, Sally Lunn's, right? It's like Sally Lunn's buns. They're these beautiful, it was like there in Jane Austen's day. It's in Bath. Like, it's just so beautiful and charming. But I went to the bathroom and a man came in, and I was really surprised that there was such a thing as a co-ed bathroom. This was a long time ago. And we were both using the sink at the same time, and I thought, ooh, this is weird. Like, there's absolutely nothing sexual about using the sink. It's no problem. There's no nudity. There's no problem. But in my mind, it was like, oh God, there's so much, it was these cultural things, right? It just depends on what you're used to. I like to think about stuff like that. It's always funny. So let's come over here now. Oh, I forgot to put our logo on the show tonight. Sorry about that. I created a new show in a hurry. And while I didn't have an idea and I didn't want to come up with nothing, while I was doing it, I came up with a better way. I kind of was reinventing the wheel when I began, and I thought, uh-oh, spaghetti-o, there's a really way better way of doing this. I want to look at a bunch of questions that came in, again, over, through the Facebook group, particularly for those of you who are not in the Facebook group, or maybe you miss a lot of posts like I do, because there are so many posts. The Facebook group is huge at this point. We're heading toward 18,000 people. Huge shout out and thank you to the admins of the Facebook group too, particularly Kirsten and Jay, who are always on and always screening and always trying to be careful. And just know with our Facebook group, since the theme is kind of Facebook tonight, if you are in the Facebook group and you see something weird, just report it. Don't do like alarmist reporting, but I try to catch things. For example, the rules are there, so it's really plain what's acceptable and what's not. I don't have a lot of rules because I don't like rules. I don't like rules. But, sometimes someone posts something that is really obviously there's a copyright issue, and that makes me uncomfortable. So when I see those, I take them down, and then I'll write a personal note to say, oh my God, I loved your piece much. I don't think that we could get in trouble for it, but just best foot forward, right? And sometimes I say, oh, this is so obscure, and, it's like a Pokemon character, and it's so obscure. It really depends on my mood. It depends on how merry I'm feeling, I guess. But that's something I look for, and I really look for people who are advertising, for example, clothing in the group. That is not okay. That clothing is never okay. Never buy a cute hooker sweatshirt or sneakers from our Facebook group. It is never something normal. It is always someone scamming. If it's a shirt or if it's sneakers, it's not good. And the thing is, just so you know, what people are doing, they're getting so sophisticated. I mean, I have to sort of respect it. We are not at like, Parisian cat burglar level of like sophisticated robbery, but I have to give it to them. A lot of people are logging on and showing as they try to enter the group like a hook drug. And I think, oh, well, they must be a hooker because they have a hook drug for their picture, no problem there. And they'll make a post of a hook drug, and then the next day they will remove the photo because the post is already up and it has been ignored, right? So it's present in the thread. And then the next day they'll go back in and they'll edit their post to be a stupid sweatshirt that they have no means of printing or intention of printing, and bogus website. When you see this, whether it's on our site, we as far as I know, we've always gotten them before they go live. But if you ever see them, and if you ever see them on other sites, it's never a cute sweatshirt. It's never a cute pair of Converse. It is always a scam. So that's really tricky. And really, Jay, who's always at work with me when I'm at the studio, he catches this fast, and he's very good at detecting people who are about to do stuff like that. So always be on the lookout, be vigilant. I set up the Facebook group, but at almost 18,000 people, it's not my group anymore. It's your group. And I'm on it, when I have time, and I love it, and I'm super, super proud to be a part of it, but it's really not mine. It's really yours. So let's make it the best that we can make it. It is already, I think, the best rug making / textile forum. It is the largest, but in the U.S., but it is the best. I think Dionne Fitzpatrick is still ahead of me, as she should be, right? She's certainly been at it longer, and she is iconic. But there have been a lot of remarkable posts lately, so let's look at some of them. Some of them I'm going to read to you, and we can talk them through, and you tell me if you have other thoughts, extra thoughts, contrary thoughts, supporting thoughts. But if you have something to say about the subject, please let us know, because it's a brainstorming episode tonight. One more of these. God, this bowls. I might need to get some more, but I'll text down for it. Talk about modern times, right? Unbelievable. So here we go. Let's do our first one. And some of them have visuals and some of them don't, because some of them are people just posting questions, which are just text, So the first one is from Cassie Kimbrell. And it says, "Hi, everyone. I have a question about monk's cloth. I'm new to this, and my monk's cloth purchase was this white fabric from Joann Fabrics." By the way, I'm reading these for the first time with you too. I know that this is not going to be a happy story. It was very affordable by the yard, especially with a coupon, right? They're stupid coupons. I was happy with it, but I haven't tried anything else. It seems to me that people are very passionate about monk's cloth, and she put a smiley face. So, is this technically monk's cloth? It's not the kind I read about with the white stripes. Oh, with the grids, right? If you got this fabric in a kit, would you be disappointed? Where do you buy monk's cloth? Thanks and Happy New Year. Okay, so let me read some of the responses that people came back with. Dawn came back right away and mentioned ribbon candy hooking. Dawn, thank you so much for always mentioning the store, because one of the reasons, this is another one that I didn't say, sounds a bit edgy, but sometimes when there's a post like this where it's like, where do you buy it? Sometimes we take those posts down or reject those posts, because obviously I am a brand and I have a store and I have every backing fabric you can name, and you can probably name some more, and I'd be like, I don't officially stock it, but I have it and I can sell it. So we don't like what are called phishing posts, where someone says, where do you buy this? Because it'll come back as a laundry list, and I will be, mentioned once, and 200 times it'll be OTF and Searsport and all those others, and it drives me bonkers, as you know. So Dawn came back right away with the ribbon candy hooking website. Thank you so much. I think a few people did. And you talk about how I sell that stuff. We'll come back to that. Karen Pierce said, I bought some from Amazon, sad to say, after mistakes, and won't rip out. It won't hold a second time. No matter how much I try to put it back into place. It happened with 2 different projects. Okay, so let's answer this question right now. And I know if you're a beginner, you're probably thinking, what are we talking about here? Monk's cloth is one of the backings that we use, one of the 3 main backings in rug hooking, and it's a beautiful 100% cotton backing cloth with a very prominent weave, and it often has a grid on it in red sometimes. So I stock my backing fabrics from Door. sometimes Michelle Micarelli, but always monk's cloth from Door. And it's the best. But it is very different than the monk's cloth that you get at Joann's or Michael's. And those prices are better. It's because it's a different product. So, for example, so the monk's cloth that you, isn't it a horrible punchline that there are more than one textiles called monk's cloth and they're both white with a grid? I mean, that's just bonkers, isn't it? That's just crazy. But it's true. And one of them is for rug hooking because it has a little bit of a stretch and a bit of a higher sheen. The monk's cloth that you find prepackaged and pre-cut, right, in the cross stitch aisle of Joann's is for cross stitch and needle crafts. It has no stretch. You cannot pull hoops through it because the whole idea of pulling a hoop through is the backing is so tight, and with the hook it's like you pull a big fat loop through with a big lofty fat head, and it sits on the surface and it's locked in by the tight weave. But if the weave doesn't stretch because the cloth doesn't stretch because it's the wrong monk's cloth, it's not going to work at all. And yeah, maybe you'll get it in there for the first shot, but you're not going to, if you make any mistake or change of heart, you're not going to be able to get it out and get it back in. So that is a huge problem. It is indeed the wrong monk's cloth. I rarely have a black and white answer about stuff like this, but in terms of supplies, the monk's cloth that they sell for cross stitch and needle arts is not the same monk's cloth, and it is going to be disappointing even if it's cheap. Because, you know, even if you buy something that is very cheap, if it's garbage and you can't use it, you know, at all, then it turns out to be expensive because you wasted money. There's nothing worse than wasting money. I don't mind spending money, but there is nothing worse than am I right about that? I mean, it drives me nuts. So I'm always sad when that happens, but this subject comes up a lot, particularly with beginners, and we have a lot of beginners, which is great, because the site is bringing in 20, 30, 40 new people every day. We have to, and I really appreciate, for people who have been hooking for years, I really appreciate your stamina in getting in there and answering people who are beginners with beginner questions, right? Because it's like no question is too small or unimportant. And I see people who I know have been hooking for many years answering the sort of entry-level questions. And it's not like, you know, it's not like there's anything wrong with them, but I just appreciate that again and again and again you answer them, because it's important to set people on the right track so you set them up for success and they stay with the craft, and then they're with us working on projects, sharing inspiration, and, you know, becoming part of the community. So I really always appreciate that. Judy, great to see you. Not for cross stitch, but it is for Swedish weaving with acrylic yarn. Interesting, Judy. So Judy, I was at your store today. I saw your daughter, but I missed you. It was a snow day, so I understood. Man, do I love your store. I hope your daughter told you I bought some backing fabrics that are not for rug hooking, because, spoiler alert, I'm working on a bunch of projects for our magazine, Magpie Times, and I'm actually, for the first issue of Magpie Times, I'm not making any rug stuff. I'm putting in about a dozen free patterns that will be for hookers or for any craft, right? Because they're line drawings. But I'm doing different stuff in general because it's a nice break for me. It's a chance for me to do some other crafts that I've done in the past that I rarely get to do. So at Judy's today, Thistle Needleworks in Wethersfield, Connecticut, I was looking at those beautiful backing fabrics that are, some of them dyed, some of them modeled, linens, cottons, all of that stuff. And so Judy's saying, yes, the Aida cloth is for Swedish, did you say weaving? Now, Swedish weaving with acrylic yarn, Swedish weaving. So what do you mean, Judy? Do you mean that that you could use it as a backing fabric if you were doing something with acrylic yarn with a hook, or does it have to still be with a needle? Just curious. And also, I have to ask. This is a general question. Sideline: is Swedish? I'm thinking of the phrase Swedish huck, right? That's a kind of Swedish cloth, isn't it? Is huck a kind of Swedish cloth or a kind of needlepoint? I'm just wondering because I know that somebody knows that. Okay, excellent. See, this is what I need because it gets things going, right? And then I learned some stuff too. That's really interesting. So there are a lot of backing. Now, what's the worst thing that could happen if you bought the wrong monk's cloth? Well, you're not going to be able to rug hook into it. But what can you do into it? Well, you could still do needle crafts into it, right? You could still use it for embroidery. Um, I'm using some of the backings I bought today to do a combination of different styles of embroidery, like long stitch, not cross stitch for me, right, with all my glasses, and applique. Like I'm going to be doing some combos of applique, sewing it right onto these beautiful, colorful dyed linen backings that are for needle crafts. And I'm going to be also doing some embroidery in some of the patterns that I'm bringing out for magazine features, right? So even if you buy the wrong thing, right, you might not be able to use it at this moment for hooking, but you will be able to use it for something else. So if you haven't torn it up and thrown it in the garbage yet, hold on to it, because it'll probably be just a hot minute before you start thinking, ooh, wait a minute. Okay, I have another idea. It doesn't use a hook, but it uses a needle, right? If hooking is your next thing, you have to put it aside for a little while, because the wrong monk's cloth just isn't going to work, and there's no way around it. Judy says, no, Aida monk's cloth is for Swedish weaving like Huck. Interesting. Interesting. That is an area I have no knowledge in. I need to delve a little bit more. I bet a lot of you know more about Swedish Huck. I only have memories of it because I had to take Swedish weaving when I was in college, but now I'm turning 52. I think I'm turning 52. I think I'm turning 52. I can't be turning 51, right? Because, gosh, I'm not really sure. I think I'm turning 52 next month. Anyway, it was a long time ago. I barely remember. Barbara says, is Huck where the geometric design is out front of the piece, top threads, but doesn't go through the back? It is, isn't it? Judy, is that what it is? I wish I had a picture of it now. Let me see if I can pull it up on my phone. I've seen it done, and I feel like the examples that I've seen, it might be a coincidence, but I feel like they aren't super colorful. Like I've seen Huck worked on like hand cloths and dishcloths, things like that. More for the bathroom, not for like scouring fry pans. Judy says people make Afghans with yarn on monk's cloth. On that monk's cloth. That is insane. So they're using a needle to bring through acrylic yarn, but in theory it could be any yarn, couldn't it? Through the monk's cloth, because it must have a much larger grid. If you're bringing through thicker fabric, the grid must be much, the gauge of it must be larger, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to get the thick stuff through. It would be watermelon nostril proportions. Interesting. And Judy says, yes, regarding only on top. Okay, so only on top. This is interesting. This is interesting. Hold on just a second. I'm going to bring up an example of Swedish Huck. This is something interesting. It did Swedish Husky. Now that is a cute dog, but that's not what I typed in. That was an adorable dog. Okay. Here, let me show you what this looks like so you are on the same page. Can you see that kind of thing? To me, this, I don't know anything about it, but all the years that I lived in the Netherlands, this really is the style of embroidery you'd see. Very limited color, a lot of red work or black work, but like not a lot of variety. It looks a lot like the Swedish Huck, and those cultures are really closely related, so I'm not that surprised. That is interesting. Not through the monk's cloth. Huck on monk's cloth is all on the top. Interesting. Under the floats. Oh, so there are. So Judy, I just have to see this through. This is how I was with your daughter today. I must have driven her crazy. So when you say floats, are there threads across the whole surface of the entire textile that are floating on top that you can kind of immediately see and pick under with your needle to bring the thread through? Or are the floats like localized? Like you have a towel and there's a little float where you're supposed to embroider a panel? I'm just wondering if it's the whole fabric that has the floats, because that would be your cue to stab your needle in and get going, right? Oh, that's really interesting. But it really is not Swedish. It always works that way, doesn't it? It's so counterintuitive. It's probably like, Greek or something like that, or God knows. Oh, on Huck fabric, there are floats all over. Oh, that's really interesting. Well, you know what? Next time I come in, which I'm sure will be soon, because I got a taste for it again. Yeah, I'm probably going to check out the Huck fabric and see what can be done on that. That could be something interesting for Magpie Times, just checking out a different needlecraft that a lot of us don't have any familiarity with at all. Judy says, on monk's cloth, the squares are used in lieu of floats. This is interesting. See, I wasn't expecting the first question to go that far. That is really interesting. I have a lot of questions. I have further questions about floats. Barbara says, my huck comes from Scotland. Vintage. Fascinating, as no evidence on backside. There's no evidence. Do you mean there's no evidence of the floats on the backside? It just looks like a nice even weave on one side, and on the other side, there's some raised threads. How interesting is that? It's like a tapestry that hasn't been made yet. It's like a ready-made tapestry, right? Well, that's really interesting. I'm going to move on, but I'm still going to look at the conversation about huck. So the next question came in from Jamie Kretsch that says, question, if I'm punching a piece with a lot of background color and occasional snowflakes, does it make more sense to punch the snowflakes and work around them to fill in the background, or to punch the background, to punch all the background and then go back and clip or pull out and replace with white for flakes? Yeah. Okay. So there's not a third choice here. The choice is either to do the flakes first, or at least the way the question is posed, or to do the whole background, then pull some of it out and add flakes. There's the third option, which seems obvious to me, isn't there, which is to leave gaps for the flakes. And I'm kind of glad that that's not there, because if you fill in that much of the background, you're not going to see the gaps for the flakes anymore. So it's good to just eliminate that as one of the choices. So I'm sure you have an opinion, and maybe you'll write it, but let's see what other people say. Dawn said, I have done it this way. Punch your snowflakes, then punch your background. Go back and pull out the snowflakes and re-punch them. The first time you are putting the snowflakes in, it's just as a placeholder. Then after you punch your complete background, you pull out the snowflakes and punch them again this way, and they stand out much better. That's exactly what I would go for. I would go, that is officially what I would go for. That makes perfect sense to me. Same with text, same with any fine and filigree elements, motifs within your piece. If you are afraid they're going to get lost or distorted or kind of deformed because you squish a lot of loops in around them, and you're afraid they're going to lose their look and their integrity, it is good to do a placeholder of a slightly larger gauge. So, excuse me, if you're using wool, slightly higher cut strip, like a wider strip. If you're using yarn, a little bit fatter or doubled up. So when you pull it out, the hole that's left is a really beautiful weighting, and you're going to be able to pull through a really well-formed loop to fill the space. And that's really what you want with motifs that are fine and filigree, because otherwise they get in there and then you crumple around them because you just fill it in and they get squished like a body at a concert, right? Do you really want to be at a concert, like up in the front row, when all the other people fill in and people start squishing, right? Well, hey, if it's Billy Joel, then that's a huge yes, or Barry Manilow. But typically, no. If it's anyone else, no. Because it's not good to be squished like that, right? It could really change your shape in a lot of ways. Let's see. Judy says floats are... Okay, wait a minute. Huck fabric is hard to find these days. Well, it's at Thistle Needleworks at Weathersfield on the Silestine Highway. So we know that you have it there. Barbara says, my huck come... Okay. And Judy says floats are double on one side and single on the other side, going in the other direction. God, I can't even picture that. One drink is too much to be able to picture that. I'm going to have to come in and look at that. Karen says, I would do the whole background and then do French knots for snowflakes. Okay, so I like this, that there's more choices here. So I'm going to add, out of the choices that we've said so far, I think placeholder, I think Dawn's right on the money. Placeholder, take it out, put it back in. That is you're going to get the number one best result. To be honest, right? Because I'm always honest about the sloppy way in which I work, right? It's just, it's a reflection of me. I got to be me, right? So if I were going to do snowflakes, I have to admit, I would probably hook the background and then squeeze in the snowflake. I mean, unless they looked bad, I might be squeezing in some snowflakes just in between knots, because it's the reverse of looking for ticks, right? And trying to find holidays. It's trying to add little bits here and there. I would be very tempted to do that because I'm always in the seat of my pants style. But I like what Karen's saying too. That makes absolute perfect sense. Doing when you pull up a loop, if you think about it, right? A loop, if you're using a wool strip that is like a 3/4, very small, it's going to come up like a little dit dot, like yarn. But if you're pulling up wool strips for hooking that are much wider strips, like I would say starting at 5, 6, 7, 8 and higher, it's going to come up like a rectangle. I have an early video on this. And there's nothing that you can do about that. You are pulling up a wide strip and it comes up as a rectangle. So you have to resign yourself to that eventuality and think, okay, but a snowflake isn't a rectangle, right? I mean, maybe Bentley found one or two that were rectangles, but in the normal course of things, they're round. And it does make a lot of sense to help it stand out, to do like a little knot, right? A little bit of like candle. Remember candle wicking when you would bring up a bunch of knots in a pattern and make a design that way? I think a little French knot makes great sense. And a simple knot is a French knot where you are just literally bringing your needle, because you would switch to a needle at this point, not the hook. But you would be bringing your needle up to the surface, tying a single knot, holding it down, right? So it didn't end up like an inch up from the thread, right? 100% chance if you're not careful. Keep it pushed down, pull the string so it stays right down on the surface, right? Lock it right on the surface, the little knot, and then bring the stitch down right next to it. Locks it right in place. It can't go anywhere. And then tie it in a knot in the back so it'll never go anywhere. It's just permanently stuck there. And if you're doing that with, for example, yarn, right, that would be great. A little bit of a thicker yarn would be great. It would make a beautiful dit dot that would never move. That really is a great idea. I really like that. That's really sweet. Barbara says, sounds like letters and rug hooking. Exactly. The placeholders. Monique says, I tend to do Oh, you do smocking. Would monk's cloth work? Yeah, absolutely. Yes, smocking is great. Right, Judy? I'll defer to you because you are like the needlecraft expert. But I would say, yeah, smocking. I would say smocking is monk's cloth. I'm trying to picture it too. I haven't done smocking myself. I'm not that good. I'm trying to imagine. Yeah, I mean, when you see embroidered smocking, not necessarily like 1970s smocking right into like a printed fabric, right? Like a clothing textile. When I think about old time, early 20th century, late 19th century smocking, I'm picturing it on like a white background, and I'm picturing it on something like monk's cloth. Judy says monk's cloth is way too loose for smocking. Okay, Judy, thank you. Give us an idea of what might be better for smocking. What about linen? Linen's probably not good for smocking, right? Because it's so stiff and wrinkle prone that I would think, I'm just thinking about the things that are available for needle crafters, needle artists. April says, rule of thumb is you hook first what you want to come forward the most. Therefore, snowflakes would be hooked first. So interesting. See, April would do it a different way. I think there's a very good chance with a lot of these questions that we would all do things a different way. Judy says, lots of folks use gingham for smocking, already printed materials. Okay, interesting. Well, I guess with gingham, because it has a really pronounced, obviously, check, that is what makes it gingham, that it would really kind of, exaggerate how puckered the material was at the points where it was smocked, and then how loose and opposite, right? How contrary it is when it comes out and it's all loose and you see this great big larger scaled print. Interesting. But Judy, if you didn't want to do gingham, right? Because gingham does have like real sort of 1960s, 1970s connotation. Is there any fabric that's pretty plain that you could use that is like a solid? Interesting. All right, let's see. So let's move on. We had lots of different answers about snowflakes. Oh, Faith wrote, and she said, absolutely do the flakes first, like you, April. Don't forget your P's and Q's, etc. for movement when you have a lot of background. Yeah. I mean, I suppose you could do them first and then just took them a little bit higher, knowing that they're gonna have a crowd filling around them, right? Judy says, I think about the Polly Flinders dresses for little girls with the smocked bodices. I do too, and I think about just the smocked yokes. you saw that a lot with like little, kids costumes in the Netherlands. Just like the a top yoke under the neckline right up to the caps of the sleeves would be a panel that was completely smocked. Super, super pretty look. um, I mean, in theory, like, does smocking work by, is it like counted? Like, would your needle have to go, oh, I need to go this far over here or this many threads over here to keep it even? I wonder. Barbara says there used to be a dot transfer that you could iron onto cotton for a neat smocking pattern. That is brilliant because then you could smock whatever as long. So that answers the question: is it measured? Is what I was trying to say, and it seems like the answer is it is absolutely measured. But you could like superimpose the measurement onto the textile, and then that becomes the sort of vehicle that makes using unconventional, unexpected textiles possible. Interesting. Any plain, good quality, 100% cotton is best for smocking. Okay, that is a great answer. Dave says, I've had good results using cotton broadcloth or cotton lawn yardage for machine smocking. Oh, interesting. Jane, good to see you. Jane says gingham would be helpful for space. I see. I see. So I get it. Okay, Jane, that's a good point. So the reason it's great to do smocking on gingham is you already have the measurement there. It's like a little ruler for you. I get it. That makes sense. Judy says the fabric is pleated and the stitches are worked on the up side of the pleat. Okay. Okay. Kathy says, showing my age, but I would sew dresses for my daughter and smock the bodice. I mean, at this moment, because of the gentle sort of rhythm of fashion, things come in and out pretty quickly these days. There's not really a 30-year cycle or wait anymore. And I bet smocking is in style right now. Honestly, I do. Let me ask you this one last smocking question. Do you, just wondering what that noise was? Do you have? It wasn't a normal noise. It was never. It was something I've never heard before. As long as it wasn't an airplane landing in the backyard or something. Do you do you smock with something that's elastic, or does it just look elastic because of the placement of the stitches and the gathering? That's my last question on smocking, because I know not everybody's into it. Kathy says, show me. And Karen says, Kathy, I did too, but used Egyptian cotton. Ooh. These are all phrases that are good. They're going to be waking me up at 3:14 in the morning, going around my head like, Egyptian cotton. I mean, it's just, yeah. I love these kinds of phrases. Not elastic. Okay. You actually have to do the heavy lifting yourself by putting the stitches in the right way. Interesting. But I guess that was a good, these are all good conversation starters. One of the sort of takeaways that I'm getting already fairly early in the episode is that all of these questions, we would maybe all do different things. Now, there are some things that are immovable, right? If you want to have immediate success and you don't want to have a struggle or heartache, but a lot of things can be done in various different ways. And that is the beauty of these kinds of conversations. Karen says used DMC. Dave says machine smocking cheats by using elastic thread in the bobbin. Oh, interesting. So the thread, I said that was the last one, but apparently it's not. The bobbin thread is elastic, but your leader thread is like a cotton non-stretch. God, that's amazing, because I would think that they wouldn't be compatible and it would keep snagging in the machine, you know? Interesting. Because sometimes I accidentally pull a thread for the sewing machine that's a different weight, like a slightly heavier weight, like more of an upholstery weight, and I don't notice it because I'm 90% asleep. And then they are not compatible with each other. My machine is a low-end machine. I just keep buying low-end machines because I'm like too scared to make a big investment right now while I'm trying to buy other stuff for the business, you know. But I remember when I worked in theater and I worked on very good machines, I never did have the problem where the machine would just choke and die. And you have to rethread the whole thing because probably they were big, heavy metal train, locomotive type machines that were unstoppable. But that's interesting. Paula says, hi from overcast Southern California. Good to see you. It has nothing to do with hooking, but we're all interested in other crafts too. And we're interested in things that go together. So it was you, Judy, that brought it up actually, because you said, oh, you can use monk's cloth to do these other things. And then we all said, ooh, interesting. What other things? I like that. I like that. We got a lot of information in one big pop. So, oh, this is another cute thing that happened. Oh, Dave says you have to hand wind elastic onto the bobbin. It takes some fiddling. Okay, I see. And adjusting to get good results. Barbara says, haha, Julie, this is Tiana's world. Judy, and we never know where we're at. It's awful. I should get on some meds for ADHD, shouldn't I? No, wasn't it you, Judy? Oh, I thought it was you. There's no I'm not blaming anyone. I love detours. Detours are how I learn the most stuff, when I get into a conversation that is unexpected and unplanned. And Monique says, I have smocked cuffs and made a lot. See, I know that smocking is still, I know that it's still in high fashion for like couture things, right here and there. Interesting. Interesting. So let me come. I called this episode Dear Abby. Isn't that silly? I couldn't think of anything funnier than that. Okay, so this was a really cute post that came up. Colleen posted this in our group. She said, I was given a box of old magazines today, starting with volume 1 in 1972. And then she wrote treasure with lots of hearts. Well, you can see that she got, as a gift, every issue of the Rug Hooker News and Views. Now, this is a publication that I hardly ever talk about. Man, we've been talking about publications a lot lately. This is one I hardly ever talk about. Do you know why? I have to say, I love the early copies. I also have all of them of News and Views. But News and Views became Rug Hooking Magazine. So they really are the same magazine. It used to be called News and Views. And it was very different. It was not a full color publication at that time. It was much smaller. It was a bit more crafty and informal. And honestly, that's what I loved about it. But it became Rug Hooking Magazine. So it's not like this ended in Rug Hooking Magazine. Karen, I hardly know any of these answers. I'm telling you. That's why I'm sitting here studying the thread, because I'm getting some great information from you all. If you love rug hooking and you don't have News and Views, you should think about getting it. It is the beginning run of Rug Hooking Magazine, and then it changed its name. And yes, it's black and white, so it depends on how visual you are and how much you can absorb and appreciate articles that are all in black and white. But it really was a beautiful magazine. It was 1972. That was also the year that I was born. The whole thing was starting off. It was interesting. It had charm. It was quaint in a very different way than all magazines are now, right? It was a moment in time thing, but it is loaded with good information. A lot of fun to look at. So the next question that came in, Nina Weiser said, when your gripper strip frame is narrower than your pattern, okay, so when your gripper, is narrower than your in other words, your pattern's too small to fit on the frame, what tips do you have for not ripping out stitches while moving it around? Okay. I feel like there's two different questions there. Melanie answered, she said, I don't do anything special. I just make sure to pull out, like away from the center and up when I take it off to reposition, because the needles on the gripper frames are angled, right? They're angled. So if you just rip it up, right, you're like waxing, right? I mean, you want to pull out to get it off the spikes, and then it lifts right off without agitating and pulling. So that is the main tip, I think. If I feel any resistance, right, this is Melanie, I stop and release it from underneath. Absolutely. If a few loops get pulled out, I just hook them back into place. It takes a lot less time to do it that way than any other methods. Just be careful and go slow. I have to agree with that. And I appreciate the sentiment that Melanie's putting forward. Like, there's a very good chance some of the loops are going to get caught. It's just the way it goes. Really, depending on your material. You know, when I hook with sock yarn, or rather punch with sock yarn, and all the loops are down below, no matter how careful I am about pulling out and away and up, I always pull a bunch of loops out. And maybe it's me just being an animal, but it can happen. And you just have to rehook them. It'll be a small little area, right? It would just be like a little legion of loss. Let me see what anyone else says. Oh, no, I guess that was the best answer for that one. That was the only one I kept. There might have been others, but people might have added stuff after I started pulling these. Britt Fox wrote, my felting process, so we're talking about felting. like washing sweaters to make them more full, right? I think maybe fulling is a better word. I'm gonna switch out words. My fulling process is not at fault in and of itself. I have lots of experience felting slash fulling knits and wool, just not woven fabric. I only included the information below so I didn't get a lot of comments about heat and agitation. And then she did one of these. I think the loose weave itself is a big issue. So my question was, is this normal? And will the Sizzix, which is the cutter that cuts the strips, right? Is this normal, and will the Sizzix fix the problem? Or should I just skip using this particular fabric? I have a half yard, she says. Gosh, I am confused about that. Okay, so I think she added to her post, because I think this came before that post. I think this came before and she added onto it. Having a small dilemma. I bought some wool fabric at a fiber festival that I dyed. During the dye process, I made sure to agitate and heated it to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. While still hot, I washed in cold water and beat it up a bit. I cut with a rotary cutter about a quarter an inch or a bit more. I thought that when cut it would be fine, but it just seems to want to fray along the sides of the strips. Is this normal? Will cutting it with a Sizzix fix the problem? Okay, I think I have an image for this conversation as well. That's the image. So let's talk about this for a minute. Okay, so I was thinking we were talking about sweaters, but she's actually talking about wool that she bought at a festival. Now, the thing with wool, particularly patterned wool, right, way more so than solid wool, there are so many different kinds of wool. Let's be candid. Let's be candid for a minute and talk about wool, all right, even if I say some things that are naughty. There are lots of different kinds of wool. And anything that you can pull through with your hooking, anything that will make a loop on the surface that you're happy with the way the loop looks, and it wasn't such pain and aggravation pulling the loops through that you lost your love for it, is a success. But having said that, there are lots of different kinds of wool. There are different thicknesses, weights, right? There are different weaves. There are looser weaves and tighter weaves. These are all going to behave differently. There are wools that have a sneaky second content to them, like a synthetic. Those usually work really well because there's sometimes an element of stretch, and that's usually a good thing. It's very hard to know, even, here's the naughty part, even when you go to a store that sells milled wool. Stores that sell wool for crafts, for making clothing, that sell wool, right? And then you decide what to do with it. Even if those stores have a heavy emphasis on rug hooking and braiding, there is a distinct difference in weight between what we consider a really comfortable and successful, easy to use rug hooking wool and a rug braiding wool. The braiding is often much thinner and it's way more prone to fray. So sometimes you end up going to a store and you think, oh, I like this color of maroon, let's go for this. And you bring it home and you're a beginner and it's really not suited for hooking. It's much more suited for braiding. And you're like, but I got it at the good store. You know what I'm talking about. I know you do. This can happen, right? This can happen because it's also marketing, right? I'm going to go there right now. And sometimes it's very hard to see that there's a little handwritten note on the display that says for braiding or braiding wool. And sometimes that wool is positioned way up front and it has a slightly better price tag. It's very tempting. And it's very easy to accidentally buy too. And those kinds of weights are going to play you as you hook them. And it will become a question of whether you got the wrong weight or the wrong type of weave, whether you got it at a fancy store where it cost a lot, a fiber festival, or you thrifted it. If the bottom line is it doesn't matter, right? That's a wash. If you are pulling up loops and they are fraying so much that it is driving you crazy and you are not having fun, maybe that's not the fabric for you, right? You can try whatever you haven't cut. If there is some that you haven't cut, you could try putting it through the wash on a hot setting, even drying it to see if you can make it more full so that it might work a little bit better. And it might work a little bit better, but it might not. So it becomes a question of, oh, I really like this color. I have never seen this color before. I'm damned if I'm not using it. Well, if that is the case, then you have to get yourself at peace with it fraying as it goes. And sometimes, this is that conversation between technical and creative people. Um, Sometimes, like if I'm working with fabric that falls into the category of I'm damned if I'm not using it because I love the way it looks, and it's a nightmare to hook with. Sometimes because I'm more creative and I'm not technical at all, I just hook the whole thing. It is a pig's breakfast. It looks like I'm going to need like a scythe to like get through it. It's absurd. But I just go. I do it. I watch shows I like. I listen to audiobooks I like. And then I look at it and I go, okay, well, here's part two. Part two is doing my gardening, right? Carving up the bonsai tree here. This is a mess. So then I get out my bent scissors and I spend a couple hours, depending on the size of the piece, trimming it and trying to get rid of all those frayed pieces. And they're never fully gone, right? But usually you can tidy up your piece to the extent where you're comfortable or happy with it. So this is just the process for a lot of us. It doesn't necessarily mean that you bought the wrong thing. You bought something that you liked. You thought it would work, best foot forward, right? Nothing really bad happened. You maybe wasted some money or you had more of a struggle than you needed to have, but don't let it poison you on this great craft because that happens to all of us. And that's, I'm sure, a big part of the reason why so many of us have UFOs, unfinished objects, sitting around because there's been pain and suffering. And we're not always at the right time in our lives for pain and suffering. So sometimes you just put it in the closet for a decade or two. And when it comes out, you have more of a sense of humor and you can deal with it again. But we all deal with this. Judy says, sometimes cutting in the opposite direction helps depending on the weave. Judy, that is a great tip. That is a great tip. Also, not to be contrary, but also cutting on that diagonal, if it is likely to fray, could really make it worse. It really depends on the material. It really does. It's an interesting question, and again, we all face this problem. I can, without seeing the material and working with it myself, it's hard to say wash it one more time, or wash it hotter one more time, or something like that. What I will say for 1000% sure is cutting with a different cutter ain't going to change a thing. It's still going to fray and atomize in your hands while you work it. The blade that cuts it, your rotary cutter is exactly the same thing that is built into a Sizzix tray. So that's not going to make any difference at all, right? Not at all. Cutting it with the best, most expensive scissors, no. What makes it fray is pulling it through the backing fabric. It gets roughed up, doesn't it? Every loop gets roughed up on both sides, and then it frays. So it can happen, and you have to make decisions as you go along, whether you are in a place where you can deal with it and roll with it, or whether you are in a place where it's going to upset you and you need to pull it out and look for something else. But just know that you are in good company, that this still happens to me too. I take a lot of foolish chances when I'm in stores, particularly thrift stores, where I'm thinking to myself, sorry, the light is so bright. I feel like you're going to see my skeleton through my skin. There we go. Maybe that's a little bit better. I take stupid chances where I know something is not going to cut well and hook well. And I'm like, yeah, well, I'm going to go ahead and take a chance anyway. Nobody can talk me out of it, right? I can't talk myself out of it. So we've all been there. Kathy says sometimes a wider cut will help. Yeah, sometimes a wider cut can help. If the strip has more integrity, it's more likely to hold its integrity coming through. But some fabrics are just destined to play you, and it's hard to get away from that. And they do tend to be prints, wovens, those kinds of checkers and non-solids. It tends to be that kind of thing. So yeah, frustrating. All right, so let's see. Oh, Margie Angel answered, not all wools are equal, especially with woven wools. Depends on the sizing, etc. Used before it was woven. Suit woolens, for example, maybe what does this, it does not felt. Yeah, a lot of garment fabrics are just for a different purpose. They're much thinner. We see a lot of beautiful garment wools, right, that are meant to be turned into clothing. And those are very tempting to buy, but they tend to be a lot thinner, right? If someone is wearing or making a woolen suit to wear to work, you're not going to have the weight of a thick weight of wool, like the kind of thickness of wool typically that you would have to hook with, right? You'd have something thin because otherwise you would expire while you were sitting at your desk working. Now, if you picture fashion has understood this through the ages. One of the great renaissances of the woolen skirt, like the Pendleton, was like the 80s, right? How many episodes of Moonlighting can you picture where either Sybil Shepherd or the Agnes character is wearing a beautiful wool skirt, right? A beautiful tailored wool skirt. What are they always wearing on top? It's always like a silk or satin blouse, isn't it? Because you're going to need some ventilation, right? It's almost like the idea of a cupola on top of a house. All that heat is building up under your skirt. It's going to blow. It's going to come up through the top like a chimney, right? It's got to get out somehow, or you're going to keel over. But yeah, garment materials are typically quite thin wools. Even if they're 100% wool, they are typically quite thin. There are a lot of Harris tweeds and Pendleton skirts historically that are different, that work differently. And then sometimes, a lot of those materials come from Britain, Scotland, Ireland, slightly different climates, right? And are often considered outerwear. How many Miss Marple, Agatha Christie movies or TV shows have you watched where it is the dead of winter and there are old ladies wearing a very thick woolen skirt and jacket, matching jacket, right? With a little blouse underneath, and they're not wearing an overcoat. Well, it's because it's so thick. The wool is so thick. And yeah, they're going to expire, so they're okay with pantyhose and like saddle shoes, right? They're totally okay with that because the wool is crazy thick. Different circumstances, different culture, different climate. So, all right, let's move on. Oh, Lisa, good to see you. You were immersed in a book. Oh, I wonder what book it was. It was probably great. I'm going to need some more of this, though, aren't I? A lot of strawberry went down the hatch. Greenhouse effect caused by woolen skirts. Who knew? Well, you didn't, Dave. I did. I remember those office situations with too much heat. All right, let's see. And Connie said this doesn't, okay, the fraying, this doesn't look like it was cut on the straight of grain. Could be. You have to make sure that you're cutting on the straight of grain. Yeah, I have to agree. I have more success when it's cut straight. Now, what Judy's saying, when you cut stuff on the bias, it has more stretch, right? So in that regard, it can be helpful depending on what you're doing. If you're hooking straight of grain, you typically get the best integrity. Other things, diagonal is great because having a little forgiving bit of stretch is a good thing, but not so much with hooking because your backing fabric stretches. So your top fabric shouldn't stretch too much, right? Unless you're doing something full blast jersey. That could go in lots of directions. We'll leave that for now because that there could be like a whole boring movie about like the differences in wool and why some of them work. We wish that we had a formula, right? We wish that we had a formula. And we wish that buying wool was like, if you buy it, you know it's going to work. It doesn't even work that way. Buying monk's cloth, it doesn't even work that way. Lots of potholes. Oh, this is cute. Oh, yeah, let me share. Let me see. Yeah, I think I have another image here for this next post. Let's see. Yes, I think so. I think this was, Colleen posted this too. She said in the spirit. Now this is one of the G's Bend patterns. And if you're on the Facebook group, you might be following this. This pattern is called the Spirit of G's Bend. And this is a ribbon candy hooking pattern that I put out last year as a free pattern on the ribbon candy hooking site in our Facebook group. It's still available as a free download on ribbon candy hooking that is gridded, as you can see, so you can blow it up to any size you want. These are very irregular lines, right? Because the Spirit of G's Bend is based on the G's Bend quilt, that were not straight lines, right? We're talking about straight of grain, not straight of grain, right? These are very irregular lines. You can straighten it up if you want, but the G's Bend quilts are not straight. They're very, very odd. So this is one that I think Colleen ordered this one and then transferred it herself because she's in Canada, right? So that's when these PDF downloads are so handy, as if you're far away. Makes sense to download it and just transfer it onto your backing, and she's ready to go. But can you see her backing here? Does it look like one of our rug hooking backings? Because she said, in the spirit of using what you have, I am going to try hooking into latch backing. I've had it in my workspace for a couple of years. I'm rereading the chapter in Deanna's book, first book about trying this method. Nice thing is I won't need a frame. Totally agree. Totally agree. I love rug hooking into latch backing. I love it. Latch backing does come in different gauges, but it is typically a wider gauge. Now, she might be hooking with a loop. I don't know yet. I guess we will see. She could hook with a pile. This is the geometric, right? So latch hook looks a lot like the Rhea rugs that we often talk about too. You know, you can have a bit of a pixelated effect on a design that is geometric. It is a design, right? It's a design. The whole thing hinges on color and movement. This is something that I designed completely with the idea of lots of puzzle pieces, lots of geometric lines, a sort of mixture of motifs from angular diagonal stuff to things that look like house windows, right? They did a lot of these kinds of motifs, so I put a bit of a sampler together, and this is the sampler, right? So it, again, if you know the Gee's Bends quilts, that region in the history of those famous quilts, we are celebrating them with this pattern. And Jean Coates put together a specific challenge and Facebook page for people who are doing the challenge, and everybody's doing them differently. And this has been going on since before Christmas. There have been, I would say, I would say about 150 to 200 people who have downloaded it. A lot of people have ordered the sort of hard copy, the physical piece on backing of choice from me. And I have to say, I hope it doesn't anger anybody, but because this is a timed challenge, when I get a Gee's Bend pattern, I typically put the pattern, I trace it. I don't keep anything in stock because I don't have that kind of money with a business my size still. But I typically make it and send it out the same day or in the morning because these are extremely fast for me to put out. And I know that the people who are doing this challenge, that it is timed and stressy. So let's see what Colleen does with this. It's going to be interesting to see if she leaves the loops or if she cuts the loops and gives it a clipped pile. Interesting, right? It'll be a big to be continued. It's fun watching what everybody's doing with the Gee's Bend. Monique says, I have quite a lot of Harris tweed. I bet you do in the UK, but I feel afraid to use it because it's so beautiful. Well, you know what? You know, I also have that. Oh, I love Harris tweed. Paris silk. What is that song? All I Need Now Is the Girl. I have the same problem. And the time that I feel best about it is when I find it damaged, like it already has rips or holes in it. And then I think, okay. Sometimes I find skirts that are Harris tweed and I can't, or Pendleton, and I can't. In fact, it happened this summer, and I'll remind you of this in a few months because it'll come up again. But there was this guy, I might have told you the day that it happened or the day after. It was a Sunday because the flea market, the Elephant's Trunk. I went and I met this guy who was super nice, and he had a couple of skirts that were Harris tweed and laying on the grass. And I picked them up and I bought them. They were $15 each, and I thought I'm gonna hook with them. And as usual, I got into a crazy long conversation with him, and it turned out that they were his mother's. They were like a size, 0, -2. And they were his mom's, and he said, yeah, she's been gone for a long time, and they're so beautiful, and I know that she got them when she was in London, and he's like, I think she got them at Harrods, and he's like, yeah, but what am I going to do with them, And I said, well, I don't know if it'll upset you, but I was thinking of rug hooking with them. And he said, oh my God, that doesn't upset me at all. He said she loved crafts. She wasn't a rug maker, but she loved all kinds of arts and crafts. She'd be so happy to think that her skirts would be coming into service to do something artistic after her passing. So we ended up exchanging numbers. I just do this. Like, this just always happens. And he ended up, like a week later, sending me some pictures of his mother, like in all of the European cities wearing these skirts. And God, she was so beautiful. It was like it was probably like 1960s era. And she was just beautiful. And so I said to him, as soon as I make something with her skirts, I said, I'm going to have to be weird and break barriers and be inappropriate, like probably overstep the boundary by asking you lots of questions about your mom before I work on the thing, because I really want to come up with a pattern that in my mind is like his mom, right? So I got a little information from those well, they weren't black and white photos, they were color photos. They're oldies. They were like Polaroid type, with the big borders. So I'm still thinking about those. I haven't hacked at them yet. And the reason I haven't hacked at them was because I started thinking, do I really want to do rug hooking with them, or do I want to do a combination of rug hooking and applique? So for example, do projects that involve both. And so you see some of the plaid, because the scale of plaid on these skirts is quite large. It's not like they're little herringbone, right? You see all the colors in one blast. No, they're like quite large. So I thought, oh, well, if I like did, because when you hook them, it doesn't even look like the same fabric, right? So I thought, oh, if I can come up with some patterns that remind me of his mom in my mind, and part of the composition is hooked and the rest of it is maybe appliqued, then you get like two chances to really admire. We'll see what happens. But my point is, Monique, to make a long story short, too late, it's also possible to applique with them. So you don't actually have to cut them and get that broken effect where you don't see the flow of the original print. If you applique with them, you see the whole thing, right? So that's something to think about. It was a great story, and I still have him on my phone, right? He'll probably remember. He wasn't like super old, so I expect to see him again. And he was looking for more skirts. That was the thing. He was looking for more skirts. So I kind of had it in my head that I might do something with a little bit of all of the skirts of hers that I can get. It'll be like a tribute to her, Oh, it'll be fun. And maybe if I have leftover, I'll make some little thing and send it to him, That would be really, really nice. Catherine says, yes, do applique and the hooking. It could be fun because it could be best of both worlds. And then I won't have any sort of regret that I cannibalized his mom's skirts and I don't even know what they look like anymore. Barbara says, hubby likes wearing Harris tweed with jeans. Oh, that is a good look. We buy at charity stores. He uses them for a few months, and then I get them for rug hooking. And he goes and buy. Oh, that is a good system. That is a good system. Oh, I just love that. I just love that. My dad used to do that too. He's been gone for years, but he used to love to go to thrifts. He was the first thrifter in our family. Well, he used to always look for nice wool coats and corduroy coats and things like that. He loved things that had the pads at the elbow. Um, yeah, he loved that look too, and he'd wear like his turtleneck sweaters and stuff. Talk about expiring with heat, right? But yeah, I love that look too. So nice. All right, let's see. Let's move on. Okay, so this is a totally different question. Give me 1 second. I'm just going to write downstairs and ask for another beverage. Um, hold on. Oh, sorry. So this is the first time I ever wrote this message. Water or bowls? Bowls is the yogurt liqueur. I didn't even say please because that's the kind of jerk I am. But hey, we're live. So Alex Drevnik, and Alex does such beautiful work. You would really recognize her enormous scale still life with kind of a gray background. Sort of like a Renaissance still life with tons of food on the table. Do you remember that piece? It was enormous. It had a portrait orientation and it was a still life. Very unusual. Um, Karen says, oh, those pillows from the latest magazine would be, oh, the plaid. Yes. Oh, Karen. Yes. Right. Karen's referencing, if you saw the episode on Wednesday, one of the features. Karen, do you remember whose feature that was? That was so good. Using plaid to make pillows and then doing proddy borders around the edge in place of fringe. And then that was nice too because the pillows were hooked and with the backs of them I think were not. You just saw the flat plaid the way that it came off the mill loom whatever, and around the edge you saw the proddies. So while it was hooked and it looked quite different, around the edges with the proddy you got these big chunk pieces where you actually saw what it really looked like. That's a great parallel. Would be fun to prod for skirts. Yeah. Wouldn't, oh my God, Karen, wouldn't it be great to do something like that with a skirt and to do proddy fringe around the edge? That would be super, super, super pretty. Ooh, that would be super pretty. Because sometimes you see, that's right there where Chanel was, right? With her like beautiful wovens, right? All her woven jackets, accessorized always with pearls. Sorry, I didn't even say please because I'm just a jerk. What's it?
It's
A water,
cassis, and
a little bit of
yogurt.
bowls. Okay, I get served this. Isn't that nice on a piece of Fiesta ware? Thank you.
Would you like some kibbles?
No, I need no kibbles. I'm gonna give it this though. Some applause.
Oh.
Yeah, I give it some applause. Thank you. Thank you. All right, a little bit of water. I remember how Coco Chanel, style-wise, loved to use these heavyweight woolens, but how she frayed the edges. Right? I doubt that she was sewing these pieces, but the ladies, and I'm assuming they're ladies, who sewed them would shore up the edges, right, with invisible matching stitches. But quite a bit of the material would be frayed first. So, that was her look, was a very early version of like, what do you call it when you break something down? Not de-engineered, but deconstructed, right? At the sleeve openings, sometimes at the shoulders, definitely around the neckline. That was a thing. That's a great parallel to what we're talking about with the Prati, isn't it? Interesting. Prati flower in the middle of the pillow. Oh, also Nola Heidbrider. Yeah, you're so right. Nola Heidbrider. Yeah, thank you, Karen. Yep, that's a great idea. That's a great idea. When you don't want to cut it, right? When you don't want to cut it, there are still ways that you can use it and enjoy it and make a beautiful piece to look at. So Alex said, "Hi, I want to display my medium-sized projects that I've made. I don't feel like framing at this time. Any suggestions how to hang it on the wall?" I bet she's talking about the still life. "I have a large empty wall in my guest room. Thanks in advance." Get ready. Are you ready? Have you ever had this question in your head about I'm going to stop, I swear. Oh my god, that's the best. Tastes like sour milk, but that's why it's so good, right? You're going to have to write down some of these things. I think if you've had this question in mind, you're going to be amazed at how many different responses came in. Just saying. So let me come back over here and come back to dear Abby or dear Deanna. Let's see. Okay, wait a minute. Not quite yet. Not quite yet. So I want to read the comment first. It's from Susan Sutherland, who is an absolute pro and a buddy. And Susan wrote, "I use MAP pins, MAP pins, to hang a lot of my pieces, even the very large ones, and they hold the piece very well. And they leave such a tiny hole in the wall. You don't notice it if you remove the piece. MAP pins only work in drywall. Here is an example of a piece that has been hanging with MAP pins for at least 5 years." And this is her piece. Oops, wait a minute. Sorry. Yep. So this is Susan Sutherland's piece, hung by MAP pins. Now look at how well and rigid that top line is. That is not saggy pants at all, is it? That looks fantastic. So that is a great response. Pamela Hunt came on and said, "You can hang your rugs and mats on a wall that is plaster by using MAP pins." Okay, so also MAP pins. They will hold up a good sized rug. You can also install, let's go to the next picture. You can also install a curtain rod that has clip hooks and hang your rugs from that. This is a great, very, I don't want to say plain, but there are a lot of these curtain rods with the clips that are really have pictures on them or colors or beads or whatever, crystals. This is a very sort of austere, goes with everything choice, isn't it? This is a very sleek, kind of sophisticated look for any rug. The photo is a similar rod and clip for rug hanging, but you can use even simpler gripper strips that come with some curtain rods. And then Gwen Seward says, lovely idea. And then Stacy says, "Pamela, would you share?" Let me come back and tell you, because you're going to want to hear this thread too if you're thinking, I would also like that. Stacy said, "Could you share your source?" And Pamela said, "You can get the rods like that, like the one we showed, at the Home Depot, Lowe's, etc." So all of those big hardware stores, right, would have them. Then Sean Bybee Niemeyer says, Pamela, agree with the mat pins. I've tried many ways, but mat pins are my favorite. And then there's more. Don't stop. Yeah, there's still more. Someone else agreed with the mat pins. Louise came on and said carpet tack. And I have to say, I hang a lot of stuff with carpet tack because it's fast. Ooh, okay, that's the carpet tack. Oh, Veronica also uses mat pins, and they do work very well. Very good. April says also a strip of carpet tack. There you are. You're ahead of it. From Home Depot. Sturdy, easy to change out. April, that's exactly what I was just going to say. What I love about the carpet tack is I'm changing my rugs for different sets behind me in the studio, and I like the carpet tack because you can take it on and off quickly. It also works great, right? It's not as polished. You can poke yourself through the rug because they're so sharp, but this is carpet tack hanging in the background, right? Hanging behind the rug, and it works really well. Someone else said hang on a thin curtain rod, and then Rita comes in. You know, Rita is like the world-class pro. She said use monkey hooks, and I did not know what monkey hooks were, and she did post a picture, and then I went on Amazon and I grabbed this picture. I have to say I still don't understand what monkey hooks are. Can anybody help me? Because they look like a little wire, but how is it attached to the wall? Is it like the top of it has a tiny hole in it that you put a nail through? And then if that's the case, doesn't the rug stand way too far away from the wall, or do you just bend the hook? I'm so confused about how monkey hooks work. I was wondering if anybody knew. Yeah, because this is what a monkey hook looks like. So I don't have any further knowledge on that. I know Rita's right. I know she's right. Maybe I just got to order me some monkey hooks, right? Marjorie came on and she said, okay, so here's another. I'm going to wait for more info on monkey hooks. Sounds like a good name for like a rock band, right? Monkey hooks. Marjorie came on. She says, I have only recently figured out that if I leave openings, wide hems when I am finishing the piece, or sew binding tape on the top or bottom, I can easily insert a slim curtain rod or dowel through the hem and bottom if needed for stability, right? So it's not all flippity floppity. Easy then to switch them out seasonally. Okay, interesting. That's a good tip too. Sheila said, I hang mine carefully on wooden carpet track. Yep, carpet tacks fixed to the wall. No need for poles, etc. And it looks good. The spikes don't affect it. Good. Jane Cuddy Dagnalt says, I use these from Amazon. Okay, so she shows us a different product, Jane. And I didn't know this product either. And it looks like, okay, yeah. Let me show you this page just in case you don't know this brand. So Jane Cuddy Dagnalt says, I use this product on Amazon, and she put in a link. And this isn't the link, but I put a different link for you. Let me unlock this to show you this brand. This is a company that does Ackfeld, Ackfeld, Ackfeld. This is a company that does these kinds of wire things. You see, it either comes with a little bar or clippies, right? And different sizes. It comes in different sizes. So that could be really interesting. Now, I just have to also point out, little secret, right? I've been kind of sitting on this one. This Ackfeld company also does a wide range of these table stand and larger stands. Do you see the one in the middle of the screen? It almost looks like a fireplace thing. Do you see how on the top, it's kind of broken in the middle? It's open in the middle, not broken. But you could bend it out, hang. See, you want to be sure that it's hanging quite well. But if you had a piece that was roughly this size, this would be very, very pretty for, sorry, the kids are making noise, for a table. If it's one of the larger versions, this one's only 12 by 14, but there are larger ones for in front of the fireplace, right? This is a very cool thing if you do craft stalls or markets or whatever, and you want some standing things. Come on, $30 and you get something standing that's quite pretty. So this Ackfeld brand, really, there's pages and pages of products that they make. And it's not just the wire stuff with the dowels or the clips. It's they do other stuff like quilt racks, like furniture quilt racks, anything that holds something. like a finished craft project. They make it. So it's well worth Ackfeld looking at their store on Amazon because they have a lot of products that make finishing your stuff and displaying your stuff very easy. Kathy says, oh, okay. So Valerie says, monkey hook work on drywall. Poke the sharp end in, leaving the small hook to hang pictures. Oh, okay. So I was probably looking at it the wrong way around. Interesting. And Valerie, like, how much weight? I mean, obviously a rug isn't going to be 20 pounds unless it's like the bal de shawl tapestry. But could it take, like, for example, a rug that was more than a welcome mat sized rug without, like, gouging the wall? I should just order them, right? Because it's like, whoa, monkey hooks. Kathy says, when using a monkey hook, you push the straight edge into the wall. Yep, until only the little hook is showing. Okay, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, I'm interested in the monkey hooks. And Ruth, you know about the monkey hooks too. The monkey hook you poke through the... Okay, thank you. You all are so good. We're never going to get through the content tonight. My mouth's been running way too much. You all are so good. You know so many things. We're sharing online. We're sharing here. We're even building on the information that was gathered on these posts. I really appreciate it. There's more ideas. Wait, there's more. Sheila says, I hang mine, okay, on wooden carpet. Okay. Cindy Hugo says, command hooks. And then she writes immediately, won't damage walls, because you know people immediately say, will they damage the wall? Let's look at what a command hook holds up to 50 pounds. Holy mackerel. Kathy says you can also get them at Michael's. 50 pounds. I was going to say I could hang a child on the wall, but not these kids anymore. All right, let's see. Oh, they have different weights for monkey hooks. Interesting. So this is the product that Cindy uses. Cindy is also a really, really seasoned pro. She does a ton of hooking. These are command hooks. So it looks to me like they stick. And I'm just wondering, you know, and if Cindy's saying that she uses these, I know that they work great. But I think it's going to depend on the wall, the humidity, the texture of the wall. I don't know. I know that we ended up, because Teddy has a large collection of puppets, and some of them are frighteningly large. And I know that we invested heavily in hooks that have sticker backs that are meant to hold, you know, a human, like the hard hat commercial. And they don't. The puppets fall down in the middle of the night and make you pee in your pants. So, I mean, I'm skeptical only because I haven't had luck with things with stickers. But if Cindy's saying that these work, this is a viable option. These are $13 for these hooks. So it sounds like the price is right here. Valerie's saying that the monkey hooks are good for heavy things. Interesting. And maybe for smaller rugs, this is another great option. Interesting. Okay, and wait, there's more. Beverly logged on and said she uses alien tape. Now, she didn't say how she uses it. She just says, I use alien tape from Amazon. And then somebody asked, you know, does it damage the wall and the paint? And she said, no, otherwise I wouldn't use it. It's washable and it's reusable. This is another, I'm guessing it's a two-sided stick. I don't know this product at all. And I think it looks amazing. Because, for example, if you had small pieces and you could just hang them up like this, Bob's your uncle, all set. I mean, how great is that, right? Oh, what a feeling. So that's interesting too, the alien tape. Different people, other people saying carpet tack. See, none of these answers are wrong. It's just a question of we like different things, right? Judy says my daughter uses command hooks or Velcro strips. No holes in the walls or marks. It really works. More mat pins. So, you know, I'm on. Oh, speaking of Velcro strips, come here. What's going on? That looks like a horror movie, Joss. She's got a piece of tape over her lips. Isn't that perfect? Perfect. Do you have 2 more pieces for Teddy and his friend? This is the way I like them. All right, so move it. You hiccuped and it ripped the strip off. Interesting. Graham says, as an avid sewer, I save my used sewing machine needles to hang my projects. Are you kidding me? That is very different. How interesting is that? Because they are fine and super strong. Interesting. So, do you first like hammer in a nail to get the space and then put the needle in to hang? Oh, that's interesting. I love this. I love this. I love this. All right, let me come back over here and let's move away from the alien tape. And so this was another one that came up. Brenda Sott Marshall. And she wrote, in search of input, let's go. Thoughts about using wool strips and yarn in the same rug. So there's going to be lots of, let me just make sure. Nope. We're going to hold on that. Let me put that up, but let me hold on. Let's hold on that. We're going to hold on that. Okay. So about using wool strips and yarn in the same rug. So Sandra said, I like to use both because I think it adds texture. Sandra McCann. Magpie Green says, go for it. It's fun. It is fun. You will love the look. And this was actually her piece that she put into the thread because you can see this has both yarn and wool strips. And I love Magpie. She is a lovely, lovely person. Sandra McCann said, I like to use both. Oh, we already did that one. April Lees says, I think she's thanking her for that reply. Nancy Eggers says, go for it. Interesting textures, I bet. Let's see. I'm checking some of the other responses. Of course you can hook. Of course you can hook or punch with both. Of course you can. It's just a question of, do you like the way that they both look? I do. I like a good mix. Jill Wyant says she does it all of the time. Break all of the rules and have fun. Barb Sacco logged on and said, here's my mixture of her using both. And it is another beautiful example. Isn't that gorgeous? Isn't that gorgeous? Oh, and Graham says of the sewing needs, I use a level and lightly marked dots for placing my needles. Works great. Fantastic, Graham. Thank you. That is fantastic. That is Graham-tastic. Sorry, I'm so corny. This is a beautiful piece showing both. Oh, I was looking to see the distance. It's the sun. I was thinking it was like a eastern kind of a dome, but it's the sun. That is a beautiful, beautiful piece. Marie Van Berkel says, I love using both in one piece. Sometimes you need different textures and different colors. And Liz Marino, very iconic hooker and teacher, there is a rule about that, and here it is. Go for it. Deborah Palmer says, yes, they work nicely together. Carol Thompson, no problem. I have used both and also many other things. Ursula Gulliver says, absolutely. If it's not going on the floor, the sky's the limit. Have fun and hook on. Carol Palat says, I say no problem. Oh, and this is a funny one. I learned a word from Rita. Leave it to Rita, right? She says, do it. I use all types of falderall in my work. I have to say, I don't know the word falderall, but other people really enjoyed it. I hope I'm saying it right. Pamela says, Rita, falderall. My grandmother used to use that word. It's excellent. And then someone else, people going, falderall, LOL. How funny. I'm guessing it means like, and sundry, like one of those old-fashioned ways of saying lots of other stuff, you know. Michelle says, I have used both in the same rug. I even added some stretch velvet to one of them. I love how they turned out. So I think the jury came back absolutely unanimous on the subject of, can you put more than one thing, strips, wool, etc., into the same rug? The jury says, absolutely you can. I think that is the right answer here. Barbara Falderall and Fiddle-Dee-Dee. Well, is that from a movie or a song or something? Or that was just something that must be from something? Nothing like that comes from nothing, right? And Kathy says, if I can't find one color I'll just switch to the other. So that's a great way of doing it too. You know, if you can't find, if you're looking for a certain color of red and your wool strips, it's not there, but you have the wool, perfect, right? Because what you really want is the color. So if you aren't a super purist, I think it's a great thing to move between more than one texture. Let's see what our next, oh, there were more examples. Oh, there's more falderall teasing there. And then Erin Pacini, absolutely beautiful work, her and her mom. She put up a couple of beautiful posts. This is one of them where she's using both. I think the sheet maybe, or at least one of them maybe, is the yarn, and the rest is wool. I think this is a more obvious one to see. Oh, from Cinderella. Oh gosh, and Fiddle-Dee-Dee. Oh, is that something that the fairy godmother says? How fun is that? That is fun. This is a hole in my knowledge. I'm ashamed of myself. Thank you for shoring that up before anybody else found out. Right? I can't stop drinking that yogurt stuff. I'm sorry. I haven't had it for about 6 years, and then a friend sent it over to us for Christmas, and now I'm going to town on it. This is the other one that Erin Pacini did. Beautiful Pradi effect, but you can see using different materials. Some yarn in there too somewhere, but lots of fun. It's lots of fun to shake it up. And yeah, everyone's saying, oh. Ooh, okay, there's another example in there. Let's look at that one too. I don't want to miss any beautiful stuff that people, oh, this is a beautiful example, isn't it? Let me see. Let me just catch myself where I am on the page. I can't find that one. Oh, yes, I can. Edwina Connors. This is a combination of wool, synthetic yarn, velours, and t-shirt material. Fantastic. Yep, that is fantastic. I'm just reading through the comments and... Oh, okay, so here's the next post. Let's come to this one. So this post says, you can read it here with me. Thrift store payday. This is from Valerie. This is from you. Thrift store payday, $7. Pendleton size. Oh, wow. Size 24. That's what you want, is one of the larger sizes, because there's just more material. I usually don't mess with jackets. Too much deconstruction, but this one is a winner. Edited to add, as I'm deconstructing, a bit too much fusible web in the front. Okay. I can pull it off, but I'm feeling glue remaining. I will keep that part separate, as it might be a problem hooked. Okay, interesting. All right, this is a great find, Valerie. This is a great find. I will say, depending on what kind of cutter you're using, be careful with interfacing and stuff, because you just don't. It's not natural fiber. I'm just never really sure how much it takes to dull the blades on some of the cutters, Most people love finding Pendletons. They're like Harris tweed, right? Kim Cesar says, I've been able to remove the interfacing with pretty good success. I use a hot iron and silicone sheet. As the glue heats, the interfacing releases. Oh, that's a really good tip, isn't it? So an iron and a silicone sheet. So as the glue heats up, it releases. You're going to have to get it really hot. Keep your fingers away, but that's a great idea. Yeah, that's a great idea. Okay, and I was just making sure we were going to the next one. Hang on just a second. That is a great find. Really good. Oh, let's hold on that. Let's hold on that. So the next one said, Julie Von Ada, has anyone ever hand washed their finished rug wall hanging? I used a linen backing from Ribbon Candy Hooking, and I steamed it, but it didn't bloom as much as I liked. I used Briggs and Little 100% wool. I see. So you hooked it, and you'd like it to be a bit more lofty. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Let's see what people said. So Karen Smith Ladovsky said, I always finish my work by steam pressing on the back side with it lying on a towel. This way the loops have somewhere to go and aren't flattened by the iron. Also, place a damp tea towel between the iron and an iron between the work. I'm sorry. Also, place a damp tea towel between the work and iron. Tea towel between the work and, yes, like a pressed cloth. Hope this is helpful. And Rita said, I've washed a hooked with wool yardage. I've washed a hooked with wool yardage on linen piece when my cat peed on it. Came out perfect with lots of views. So Rita's done it with a linen backing and it came out fine. Interesting. I was just thinking, that's why my mouth slowed, because I was thinking about being in costume and working in costume. And I've said this before, but we often used a tool called a pin board we called it a velvet board specifically because it was for ironing velvet, you know, because particularly like silk velvet is so supple and silky and it wrinkles. So we would put the velvet face down, pile down on the pin board, and iron the back of it. So you were basically ironing the cotton or the silk or whatever the pile was adhered to, was, you know, part of. And I'm just wondering if there are other types of pin boards that, for example, you could use for rug hooking with the pins spaced apart more, because a velvet pin board, the pins are so close together, right, that would translate as just a flat surface for something like a rug. But I wonder if there are pin boards, or if people make pin boards of different. Um, Graham, I wonder if you know the answer to this, that are spaced differently. You know, that maybe you could um, iron it without flattening. I mean, the loops. The thing about, I hate to say stuff like this because it's the thing about wool is it has a great memory, right? That's the thing. So if you flatten the loops, I want to say they'll bounce back eventually. They'll bounce back a little bit, but you really are pressing them. And wool has a really good memory. So it would scare me to press it too much, right? We do block our stuff so it kind of mellows out and this pile kind of fall everything relaxes into the loop next to it, and it tends to look quite good. I typically don't block my stuff, I have to say, but people do, and it works great. Um, I'm gonna say I think the expectation of um, adding steam to something at the end in hopes that it'll look more full, it's maybe the wrong stage, sadly, to try to make it more full. I think you have to make the material more full before you hook with it. That will be your best chance. I'm sorry, of um, of getting it full. But once it's in there, yeah, I think the more heat and steam, and particularly pressing that you're giving to wool, the more you're shaping it permanently. So I'm not sure that that's the desired effect, Julie. Um, but I would say, if I'm just passing on what Rita said, she put hers right through, boom, and it was fine. So it's Rita Hammock. You can always write to her. She's super, super sweet and friendly, and she'll definitely write back to you if you want more particulars. I haven't done that. Let me see if anyone else said anything about that. Judy says, since it looks like these rugs are decorative and not functional, any texture and fiber that works could be used. Absolutely. Absolutely. Anything. Anything at all. Even like plastic bags, garbage bags, balloons, like anything at all could be used. And even for floor stuff, right? Even for floor stuff, Judy, because like Victorian era rugs, they weren't using wool. I mean, you would patch your clothing with wool. It was serious business and expense. They weren't. Most people were not hooking with wool. They were hooking with like ripped up clothing that were different materials, lighter materials, and they had those on the floor. And yeah, you do get a lot of threadbare rugs, and rugs that have areas of extraordinary damage and loss, but for the most part, most materials do okay. Not if they're going to be wet, right? Not if you're going to combine the grit of boots and the water of boots and all of. When you combine that kind of agitation, you're grinding the rugs down, really, and you really are seeing loss. But the materials themselves, most materials are pretty hardy. Even going way back when. I think the further you go into the 20th century, the crappier the material is, and the better the chance it's not going to stand the test of time. I think the further back you go, just like buying an old house, in my opinion, I've always, I'm obsessed with buying a house from like the 1600s, 1700s. They just made them differently back then, and you expect them to last. Same thing with material. But cutting up stuff that, would currently be at TJ Maxx, now that's a different story. I wouldn't want to walk on that stuff. I'd have real reservations about the integrity. Kirsten made it at last. Good to see you. Linda B says, me too. Kathy says, I've taken Oh, Linda, good to see you. Kathy says, I've taken larger rugs to my dry cleaners and have it just steamed. And when they come back, they look wonderful. Fantastic. I don't know if Julie's watching, but I'm in touch with her about some other stuff, so I'll pass that on. My mom says, click the thumbs up. You are so sweet, Mom. And Barbara says, I'm not this brave, but had a friend from Sarnia, Ontario, who put all her rugs through the washing machine without issue. See, this is all, we're scared to say it because it's kind of counterintuitive, but you do hear it. You hear it in the wind that other people have been successful. Leave it to Rita to be like, cat peed on it, went right in. But yeah, apparently it can work. Let's try to squeeze in one or two more. Let's see. Um, okay, this was kind of a sad one. So Katie Gallerina said, okay, I'm getting desperate. I want so badly to hook rugs. I have all the equipment to do it, but I have an issue. Despite that I've had many people tell me it's not possible, I have an adverse reaction to wool. Oh, it's definitely possible. Handling it for a length of time causes the skin on my hands to become red and irritated, followed by a painful, itchy rash that dries, cracks, peels. I have tried many different finishes and weaving, and if it's woolen, it causes the same reaction. My question is, what is a suitable replacement for wool strips and yarn that will hold its shape well, yet still have some softness? So this is a great question. This is a great question. Um, Sandra Totan says, I have seen old rugs hooked with cotton. Absolutely. Try that. Absolutely. I would cut strips wider and sort of fold over with the cotton because it's thinner, right? If you want it to be a little more hardy. So just 2-ply, fold it over, and hook with one piece that's folded. You can hook with stretchy velvet. Grenfell rugs were hooked with old nylons, tights, right? Stockings. All of those things work great. Mary Feetham says, I use t-shirts. I just cut across the stretch. That works great. Jan Lord Giraldi says, nylons and t-shirts, perfect. Heidi Martin, velvet. Pamela says, I have used commercial acrylic yarn to hook with. It looks great, especially for rugs and mats that won't get a lot of wear. Not so great for floors or something that'll be handled a lot. It won't hold up to that, but it looks fine. You can use t-shirt strips or cotton fabric, sari ribbon. The list goes on and on. Use what you can. It doesn't have to be wool. Edwina Cutter says you can hook wools with t-shirt material, anything that has stretch to it. Velours hook beautifully. I agree. I love stretch velvet and velour. Christine Johnson, many people cut strips from t-shirts. Robin Whitford, acrylic yarns are perfect, as are t-shirt stretches velvet. So everyone's saying, and then some people are going a different route and saying, can you use doctor's gloves like nurses wear? Ones that would fit tight, right? And there's quite a few people that give that as an answer and say, well, the thing is, a lot of people like the look of wool, right? So then the answer turns from being, what else could I use, to what do I put in my hands so that I can still use it? So a lot of people are coming back with different kinds of gloves that they use. Karen Hawthorne says her friend Wendy Simon hooks with plastic bags. We've seen. I love Wendy. Her plastic bag rugs are insanely beautiful. They look like crystal. I mean, it's just absolutely beautiful. His friend is just leaving now. How fun. How fun. This is one of the brands that Carol Dorothy Moffat put up. She said, I have a reaction to wool. You can use acrylic yarns and fabric, whatever other fabrics. I have even hooked cotton knits and batiks, but she recommends these gloves, mockingers, quilting, crafting, sewing. So I don't know I can't see on the thing what they're made out of, if they're stretchies or if they are like cotton. Interesting though, isn't it? Because that kind of circumvents the question of what else can I use. I just want to point out, other people will also say fleece. Absolutely, fleece is great, like polar fleece. Lots of people coming in with fleece, and other people saying gloves. Somebody recommending copper fit gloves. Google them. So different answers to that, both addressing the problem of the allergy and saying a million other things that one might hook with. Now, Graham, you came back to me. I was hoping you would. Graham said, I made a pin board using whatever size you need, and I had a thin scrap of wood. I used 3/8 inch small nails, and I nailed them to about a half an inch apart. Oh, okay. That's a good measure, isn't it? I did sand the wood very well. Okay, that's a great point. How did I know that you made a pin board? that makes a lot of sense, right? That makes a lot of sense. I think that you said the really important thing that I would have forgotten to say, that the board has to be sanded. Because if your material is like catching on the wood, right, that's going to be a different problem. So I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great idea. That's a good how-to. Maybe when things quiet down, um, maybe I should just give that a try. Just. I know that it works because in theory, why would it not work, right? Thank you, Graham. That's really good. That's really good. I'm gonna see if I can squeeze in one more. Oh, these are more. Some of these. Our group is so large at this point that some of these posts have like 1 to 200 responses, and um, I think that speaks a lot for the group, right? Because for the person who's trying to collect the data and make good choices, that's it for the pile. I have a ton more on my phone, but I think we'll hold on those until this week or whatever. Um, yeah, for a person who's trying to collect the data, it's like the more the merrier, right? Because once in a while somebody gives you a different little nugget and you think, ooh, that's a nugget. But I think it's very, very helpful to, I know not everybody likes Facebook, and I completely get it. God, the people who write, I'm not going to start, but I get the craziest mail on Facebook, and I always know that it's like not my friend, right? But sometimes the temptation is just too strong, and I have to like do a little bit of cat and mouse before I report the person, because it just blows my mind that there are so many scammers and dirtbags with that kind of time on their hands. But I get why people don't like Facebook and being online at all. But I will say that this is the best of Facebook. When you're in a group that is a community where you can gather information and learn new things, catch inspiration, right? Just flitting by you, like right by your face while you're just sitting having coffee. That's a good situation, right? So if ever this kind of technology really does come in useful, it's in groups like this where, 100 or 200 people comment on one post. Well, this is what I do, because it's not just the information, is it? It's the sense of community. And particularly when you're screwing something up, it's that sense of like, well, I'm definitely not alone. I got all these response. I'm definitely not alone. I don't feel so stupid anymore, right? Like other people have done this exact same thing. It really, I think, just fosters a great sense of community and relatable conversations for us, right? Because like you can't go to the pizza store and say like, what do you think about monk's cloth? There's very little opportunity in our lives to talk about things that are real particular about our hobby, and get answers that are you know thoughtful, useful answers. So I love being in this Facebook group, and we will continue this conversation. I'll have to see. Yeah, maybe we'll come back to it on Monday. Maybe we'll finish it on Monday. Because I realized partway through, why am I cutting and pasting like thousands of these? And I kept getting them out of order, and the cursor kept jumping, and it was taking forever, and I was getting panicked. And then I thought, they're already on my phone. Why aren't I just reading them off my phone? I should have had a V8. But so we'll come back to this. Let's come back to this on Monday, because there's a bunch more different questions that I think are so useful, that will give us conversation starters, but also maybe you will learn something, some great hack that you have not heard of yet. And how fun is that, right? So let's do that on Monday. This group has been a gift. It really has. It's an amazing group of people. Thanks, Linda. So let's think about what we need to say before we log off. Sunday night, I'm running the Mucha class again. So I will be with you on Sunday from 6 to 8 p.m. If you are signed up for that class, what a lot of fun. Great opportunity to learn about the Art Nouveau movement, to learn about Mucha, and to learn some really good hacks for doing some simple Art Nouveau designing for patterns that you can draw and that you will love working on, right? So that's coming up on Sunday. And otherwise, I'm just like nose to the grindstone this weekend, getting some orders out. Dave said, heading off to Monkey Hook concert. In my 1980s woolen shirt, still laughing. Perfect. Perfect. April says, I'm not on Facebook, so this has been a fun time. Well, we're going to do it again. And that was the sort of genesis of my thinking with this was, I bet a lot of people aren't on Facebook. And even for me on Facebook, I had not read any of these threads. Shame on me. So I learned a lot too. I think it's really helpful to just talk about this stuff. We can't possibly catch anything, right? We're all doing stuff. We're all busy. So I will either see you Sunday or I will see you Monday for coffee time at noon Eastern Standard Time, and we'll return to this conversation. Otherwise, I don't have much news for you other than remember Magpie Times is there. I'm getting tons of great content. There is so much more time to work on content for Magpie Times. It is going to be a big, fluffy, full issue. I'm not going to talk that much about it because you're just not going to believe how many different artists are in here representing all kinds of fiber arts, particularly rug hooking and punching. But it is beautiful beyond my hopes and expectation. It is way more beautiful content coming in than I thought was at all possible. So I am super pleased. If you have something interesting with a garden theme, make sure that you send it to me at ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com because I would love to see it. And if it doesn't fit in perfectly with this issue, I'll put it into a special folder and maybe it will fit in good with a future issue. The issue immediately after Historic Gardens is Midsummer Magic. So that could be anything. Whatever it is to you, that'll be great. We're not going to be super rigid about themes because the publication will come out 4 times a year as digital download or a hard copy. It's more important to me that it's seasonal than it is like really, square on the theme. But just loose theme, Midsummer Magic, and then the next theme after that for fall will be the country fair. So that makes more sense. So anything that you have for me, you can send to ribboncandyhooking@gmail.com. If it's something that's more for Judy, I will forward it to her at littlehouserugs@hotmail.com. Everybody have a great weekend. Have a great weekend. Be comfortable. Find warmth, comfort, hobbies, happiness. Do it all. And I will connect with you again on either Sunday p.m. or Monday for the next coffee time. I will see you all soon. Have a great weekend. You too, Kaz, Kathy, everybody. Thank you so much.